Podcasting is more than just talking, it's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
BSing with Bob Schmidt. We've got Justin Loeber with us. Justin is a singer, a publicist, and an author. Justin wrote the book, Get Out of Your Own Way, Guide to Life, 10 Steps to Shift Gears, Dream Big, and to Do It Now. And I brought up singer first because, I happened to search on Google for Justin Loeber, and in your book it said that you were a singer. So I'm looking, first of all, I was looking for Justin. I'm like, well, where is it? And then as I read a little bit further, you ended up performing under Larry. Why did you perform under Larry rather than under Justin?
Well, my full name, as I say in the book, Get Out of Your Own Way, Guide to Life, my full name is Lawrence Justin Loeber, and my mom wanted to call me Lawrence, and all of my friends wanted to call me Larry. And then when I was a kid, they all called me Fat Larry. So I decided to shed all of that, and I think it was 1990, I decided to reinvent a bit and use my middle name, which is Justin. So that's my story on that.
Okay. Well, I was going to say it goes back to the whole branding thing, doesn't it? And that's kind of brought you into your current job being a brander of sorts.
Yeah. Bob, about the branding, it's so interesting how people either get it or don't get it, because I always look at branding as part of a recipe. I mean, everything that's in a brand should fall under the umbrella of the brand. It's almost like the recipe where, well, why would you put steak sauce in a chocolate cake? It just doesn't fit. So I was a natural brander from day one.
Justin Loeber is my guest on the BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast. Justin wrote the book, Get Out of Your Own Way, Guide to Life, 10 Steps to Shift Gears, Dream Big, and to Do It Now. So what made you become an author, Justin?
I really had a calling to do it. I had some job candidates, come into my office. I have a PR and digital social media firm in the city called Mouth Digital and Public Relations in New York City, and we get candidates all the time. But this particular one was a little bit off. He came into the office with cut-off jeans, flip-flops, and earbuds, playing the latest Beyonce song. And I just looked at this guy and I was shocked that he made the choice to come in very super casual. And, we don't work by the beach. So it really was out of place for someone to come in like that. And then his cover letter on his resume was, please see attached. That was all that was on there. He just was totally disconnected. And I felt that he, as well as other people that kept coming into my office, really needed to know 10 steps, not only how to get a job, but 10 steps how to live life. Because we have thrown out some of the major things, the major survival skills that we had all in place of the electronics and the iPhone and the smartphone. It's incredible. So that was my calling to write this book, Get Out of Your Own Way, Guide to Life.
So, Justin, I got to ask, did you hire the guy?
No, I didn't hire the guy, but I should have after the fact that he helped me conceptualize the book. But seriously, the millennials weren't the only hot messes out there. The boomers were just as crazy because they were living in the world of the liquid lunches. Back in the 70s and 80s when big executives used to go to lunch, they used to have a couple of martinis and they used to come back to the job really kind of bombed. And when they walk in for the same jobs as the millennials walk in, basically they're negotiating as if they're talking to someone who's running the Paris Peace Talk. So I really felt that the millennials and the boomers are really on the same trajectory for not understanding what the real world is in 2018.
So who does understand what the real world is then, Justin?
I think the people that survive a major weather incident or fires, the ones that have to put down the smartphone and have to figure out how to survive without any crutch. I think that honestly, we all have it in us, but when we're sitting at a restaurant with our family of 10 and not one person is talking because everybody's looking down at the phone. In my book, I say put the smartphone down, look up, look out at the possibilities in front of you. I mean, Bob, think of it. If you're flying all the way from Wisconsin to New York City to see relatives, and they don't even give you the courtesy of looking up and having a conversation with you, I say that is 100% rude. What do you think?
I agree. I think that's beyond rude, and unfortunately, Justin, that's the way our society has gotten to be. Nobody looks at each other anymore. Nobody talks to each other. Nobody knows how to shake a hand. Nobody knows how to dress the way they need to dress in order to, like you said, get a job.
Well, I just think that we all still have it in us, but we're being fed these electronics. We're all electro beats. We're addicted to all these things because it's easier to be entertained than actually be the entertainer. And in my book, there's so many tips, from finding perfection and imperfection to working on your work ethic and a whole lot more that really will help you bring back some of the old school stuff that really will help people survive in any decade.
Well, you mentioned perfection and the imperfection. Yeah. I love that. That's a great line.
Yes, that's actually step 3, find perfection and imperfection. Because, we're all so geared to competing and looking at our neighbors and looking at our competition. And although it's fantastic to compete, what I say to myself is give yourself a break. There's always going to be someone smarter, more successful, more handsome, more young. There's going to be someone around the corner that's going to knock you out of the park. But what you personally might think as your weaknesses might actually be your strength. We have to pull out the quirkiness and the extraordinary in ourselves so that we step out in the crowd. I mean, in the bad news with the flip-flops and the cut-off jeans guy, he was a hot mess, but he stuck out in the crowd. He stood out in the crowd, and he actually helped me write this book. So even though that was his weakness at the time, it was the strength for me to call out. And that's what I want to tell your readers, that look at yourself very clearly. Take your inventory. There's parts of this book where you give yourself a questionnaire and you go through it. You can own your own power of thoughtfulness. I think that's one of the steps in the book. I really think that we aren't thoughtful anymore because we're letting, again, these smartphones think for us. But think about it. Again, if you're traveling thousands of miles or you're accepting a guest thousands of miles, be thoughtful, be kind. It's not a negative to bring back some of those old school values.
You mentioned that there's quizzes and stuff in the book. I'm just going to take one from your step 3, the finding the perfection in imperfection. Are you focused on them instead of celebrating you? And I know in an interview that I saw that you did on YouTube, you said that you used to be the guy that would try to please everybody. Instead of trying to focus in on yourself, you're trying to focus in on what other people and what they're dealing with.
Absolutely. I mean, we all are known for 1 or 2 lines. I was known as the people pleaser. You might be known as the great interviewer. At the end of our lives, Bob, and I say this in the book, what do we really want to be known for? Because we're only, if you think about it logically, we're only on this earth for less than a dozen of decades. I mean, it's not even, it could be a half dozen. It could be 7 or 8. If we're lucky, we'll live to be 80. So what do you really want to be known for? Do you want to be known as a slacker who didn't do anything but took from his family? Or do you want to be known as a bus driver who morphed himself into a doctor? You can rewrite your own definition of normal, and you can actually take charge of what your own storyline is. And as I say in the book, at the end of the day, no one cares about your Wikipedia page and how fabulous you are. They're only going to go for that one line, and it might be gossip, and it's just going to be enough words that would fit on a tombstone, Bob.
When you said tombstone,
there?
When you said tombstone, all of a sudden my mind went to pizza. I'm sorry, I'm a big guy and I like pizza.
Well, I understand that. But honestly, he was a very nice husband. I mean, at the end of the day, you work your ass off, and that's going to be your one line. But you don't want your one line to be, he was an ass, correct?
Well, that's true. If you ask my kids, they'll probably tell you. They'll probably tell you that one.
Well, if they tell you to your face, I would take some soap and wash their mouth out.
Yeah, I know. You ever had your mouth washed out with soap, Justin?
Absolutely. Those were the good old days. But it wasn't now it's called abuse.
Yeah.
But yesteryear, it was called a little bit of discipline goes a really long way. And again, I don't blame the millennials for being zombies. I really blame the boomers because they're the parents and the grandparents of these kids who are called kids at the age of 30. And at the end of the day, they're the boomers are the ones that gave these millennials a free pass. And I think how horrible you bring a child into the world and you don't give that child any skills. I mean, you can look at a little bird. They train their little young to go out and fly. And here, as humans, we're training our kids to be helpless, just looking at television, looking at the video games, looking down. I mean, this is the world we're living in. And honestly, it does start at the top of our country with our president and its candidates who are running for president. We are all in a communications bumper car.
Right. Well, let's jump ahead then to step 6. Then you said communications. You got to learn how to communicate in order to survive in this world, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, in my opinion, communication is practically the be-all and end-all of everything we do in life, if you think about it. People get all tied up in a bad text or an email, and it's not real. If you talk to the person, all of the nuances that you think were negative could actually be positive, because when you talk with people, you actually hear the tone and the passion in which that person is communicating with you. If you're caught in a text, if you have a text that's more than 5 words, you better pick up the phone and talk to a person, because it's horrible nowadays. People break up with others on a text. How helpless is that? How weak is that, Bob?
Yeah, that's super weak. Do you think that you have that opinion, Justin, because because you're old?
Well, frankly, when I walk into a room, people think I'm 38.
Actually,
And I'm
I would believe
9.
I'd believe that, and I was shocked when I heard your age. So that's the only reason why I threw
You know
that.
what?
That's the only reason why I threw that out there.
Thank you so much. I got to tell you, age is really a number. And the reason why people think some people are old, some people are young, is because we're all being fed these marketing ideas, meaning that at 49, we're supposed to get the AARP magazine. The marketing of this country locks us in based on our age so that they can sell us different products. But if you take out all the white noise and if you live your life in the vision that you want it to be, you will not fall prey to someone else's stereotypical ideology of who you should be or will be as you grow up. At 50 frickin' 9, if I was going to dig my grave, I would not be doing it through a book. I would be doing it just as a kind of white noise. And right now, with this book, Get Out of Your Own Way Guide to Life, I am telling all of your readers to take the shovel, put the shovel down, stop being sold all this marketing crap, and just do your thing. And don't worry about what other people think. Take a risk.
Is it hard to tell people not to listen to the PR stuff when that's what you do for a living?
Well, PR is a very interesting definition, public relations. It's relating to the public. What I do in my job is I take some complicated issues the clients have and I quote unquote dumb it down into some easy speak so that when you deal with whatever it is you're representing, people will understand it in one line or two. If you are so complicated, if your ideas are so complicated that people don't understand it, then I would say you need a publicist.
Do normal people need publicists?
You know what? It seems like everybody needs a publicist these days. But, if you have an idea, if you have a product, if you have a restaurant, if you have a show, if you have a book, if you have cosmetics, the best thing you would need to do is have a publicist. A publicist is like a real estate broker. They're the go between the media and the public. The media doesn't want to hear from everyday people chit chatting about their ideas. They want to hear from brokers that are called publicists in the industry.
Is it hard to, quote, broker your own book?
You know what? It's a very interesting process because I have to, when I'm representing people, step above. I have to represent them because if I represent a doctor, I'm certainly not a doctor, but I have to find out what those talking points are and what the conversation is in order to get the job. And for me, I've been doing this since 1993, and 98% of my day is based in rejection because most media reject. It only takes a handful to make something very, very successful. So it was not very hard. What was interesting about the process, Bob, is that some of my media friends were afraid to tell me no, so they just didn't tell me at all. And I said to them that as a publicist, we get paid to get an answer. And if the answer is no, it's as important as the yes, because that shows that we've gotten to the source and the source has given us closure. And some of the media people didn't even occur to them that no would be a good word when it comes to PR.
You know, honestly, this is the first I've ever heard that. As a person that books my own radio show and my own podcasts, I get pitches all the time, and a lot of times I just don't even, like you said, like your friends did, they just kind of rejected it. I've done that myself. So saying no is better than saying nothing at all.
Well, you know what? This is why publicists have a bad rap, because they keep pushing and pushing, and all they want is an answer. I mean, think about it. If you see something out there as a pitch and you immediately respond, "I'll pass, thanks," you're not going to hear from that person on that client again. So it really does make sense to answer a question. But we all know that everybody's busy, and PR, there's like an unofficial rule that you try and call and email someone up to 3 times, and if you don't hear back, then that silence really does equal a no.
That's just like it is in sales. If you got to make that pitch 3 to 5 times in order to have somebody even interested in it. So I guess
Absolutely.
PR in a way is just like sales. Except for instead of selling a product, you're selling a person.
It's absolutely true. I mean, in PR, it's really a crapshoot. It's like a free fall because unlike an interior designer, Bob, where at the end of the gig you're going to get the couch, the drapes, the paintings at the end of the engagement. With PR, the only thing you can ethically guarantee is an effort. And that effort might come up not for actual bookings. So you have to be really crafty and really focused when you want to take on a client because, again, PR is like a beautiful crystal bowl of lime jello. You can see it, you can taste it, but if you put your hand in it, it might not be there because it's such a volatile world we're living in. I mean, I've had clients sitting actually on in studio ready to be interviewed, and then there would be a terrorism attack, and that interview goes south, never to be rescheduled. So in PR, the effort, not necessarily the result, is what people pay for. And of course, we all know it is a result. So the pressure is on from day one.
A lot of clients, I'm guessing, would probably think that mouthdigitalpr.com was trying to help them out, and they didn't realize that, well, they set up 15 interviews and they weren't able to close them all. That falls back on the client rather than on the PR company,
Well,
correct?
it's interesting because, again, it comes back to even the tip of my book, Learn How to Communicate. It comes down to really being clear with your audience or with your client. So in our contract, we have, and most publicists have this in their contract, where the client understands that work is based on effort, as we cannot guarantee what the media or any third party entity is going to say about the product. I mean, if we go out there and say we have a new recipe for bread, and all of a sudden there's three other recipes that are exactly the same, we can't be in control of that. So what people sign up for is really a chance. They're taking an educated risk in trying to make their dream come true, which is getting their product or whatever it is out there. It, the worst thing, actually, PR is the most important cog in the wheel of everything. Imagine if you have a Tiffany diamond, Bob, and nobody knows about it because there's no PR about it. So you've got to be able to save some budget for marketing, because unless you get it out there, people aren't going to know about it.
Justin, you'd mentioned white noise a few times so far in the interview. How do we turn that white noise off?
Well, I think the whole thing about white noise is not caring what anybody says, not looking at your neighbors, which I call in the book, Get Out of Your Own Way, Guide to Life, the Joneses. If you stop worrying about what the Joneses think about you, if you don't play golf, don't join the golf club because the Joneses are there. Stop competing. Take your kids out if you're a family guy or a woman. Take your kids out and show them the real world. Just because the next door neighbor's got the latest, video game doesn't mean your kids have to do it. Focus on what you and what your family is meant to do, and stop listening to what others are telling you. That is what I call getting rid of the white noise.
Okay. I see on page 177 in the shifting gears chapter of the book, your job could be old and outdated, not you. And that makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of jobs that are out there, and people still have the ability to work and to do something different.
Absolutely. The whole game of life is learning how to reinvent and learning how to shift a gear and make a turn without overanalyzing it. I mean, when I had a dry spell a few years back and I had two properties, it took me 20 seconds to say, I've got to rent out one property because I can't afford two. And within 4 days, I got a renter for that property. And that's a true story. At the end of the day, you have to get out of denial. You have to blow out the fog and get real with the program. It's all about getting on a roller coaster and going up and down the ebbs and flows of life and figuring out, how am I going to survive today? I mean, this is not our grandparents' world, Bob, where they sat there for 20 years at the same job. They got a gold watch. They got, a bandana that said, happy retirement, and everybody went on their merry way. Your company can axe you as fast as you got in. So you have to really be adaptable and say to yourself, okay, what is it in my life that I can do that I'm not doing now? I mean, I was this washed up recording artist in the 80s. I was discovered by this guy, Gary Newman. My dream was to be, a recording artist. And as fast as that star was shining, it crashed and burned, Bob. So what was I going to do? Sing my disco hits in my apartment? No, I had to figure out a way to pay the rent, right, because the landlord didn't care if I was a hooker or a banker. I just needed to come up with the money. So the bottom line is you got to be adaptable. You have to use some of your skills from real life in order to bring it to the table, regardless what your job is, Bob.
Well, Justin Loeber, I know that you and I rock the same hairstyle, zero hair. But how is hair your secret weapon?
Well, I really did I'm a hair person still. And in some of my events, I come out with an afro wig because I had a big afro in the 70s and 80s. And you know what? When you lose something, you bring something on. I've got some great hats. What about you, Bob?
You've got some great hats. I like to rock the bald just as it is. but I shave it every day.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Everybody does what they need to do for feeling good about themselves. And what's good about having no hair is it's never a bad hair day.
No, that's true. That is so true. So I have to ask, we all have memories of our childhood, and smells one of the things that when I smell coffee, it reminds me of traveling in the car with my parents. What is a smell that brings you back to a pleasant place?
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Well, I wasn't thinking of a pleasant one for a second because
Okay,
this
awful
one
smell. What's
actually,
an awful smell?
okay. I was, in the 60s, everybody seemed to smoke cigarettes, and I was in the car with my parents, and they were both smoking with the windows shut. And I looked at them, I might have been 3 or 4, and I said, "Can you open the window? I'm dying out back here." And at the end of the day, that I remember that all the time, and I never smoked a cigarette. But I think that I always loved the smell of fresh paint. It reminded me of moving to a great new place. And now, as an adult, one of my hobbies is buying and renovating and selling properties. So I think the smell of fresh paint. I know probably people are thinking, what about, fresh cookies in the oven? It wasn't about that for me.
Well, the reason why I'm asking, I got a couple of questions. So when you and I talked a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned you should come up with 4 or 5 questions that you could ask everybody, and I've got a list.
Yeah.
and
Okay, great.
and those are actually on the list. Also, what makes you nervous? That's another one on my list.
Well, what makes me nervous is not being as prepared as I might want to be. I think that when you're nervous, that means you really care. And some people don't look at it like that. So when I tell my clients, be prepared, media prep, it's better to be awkward with me in an office than awkward on a sound stage with a camera in front of you. I think being prepared will help you alleviate nervousness.
And then final question I have of the goofy questions. How often do you check your phone?
Well, it's funny because I'm on vacation this week, and there's another step in this book. It's rebooting. I really think that we have to honor rebooting. I mean, again, the smartphone is making us available 24/7, and I don't think that that's right. Unless I'm an emergency room doctor, you don't need to contact me on Sunday at 11:30 p.m. I think that if you reboot, if you step away from whatever it is you do and you get some physical rest, you're actually going to be doing a much better job when you come back to it. So I do believe in rebooting, and I only checked it once, and that was today. So that was 4 days from when I started the vacation.
Are you kidding? So you haven't looked at your phone in 4 days?
Nope. And people in my business go, "How do you do that?" And it's because I'm on vacation, and everybody deserves some vacation time. If you keep looking at the smartphone for the emails and all of that, I mean, you're going to drive yourself absolutely crazy. You're going to be addicted. And I want to actually honor my vacation time and be off. I don't want to be on while I'm off.
I hear you right there, loud and clear, Justin. What's your favorite app on your phone?
My favorite app, I would probably say, is either the JetBlue or the Groupon, which is a fun app. I go, let me see what they have for sale, and they always have some amazing things for sale as long as you could figure out the small print. And also there's some real estate apps that I love. Whenever I want to think about moving or doing a new project, I always start scrolling on the real estate apps.
Let's wrap things up with a little bit on customer service, because customer service is, I think, a lot of people's pet peeves. When they don't get it, they get angry, but when they have the chance to give it, sometimes they don't.
I really call out some customer service in my book, Get Out of Your Own Way Guide to Life. One is Apple, and the other one is the Sleep Number bed. These were two companies that I was dealing with, one more disastrous as far as customer service than the other. I don't know about you, but every time I get a new iPhone, it takes 3 or 4 days to configure it. If I wanted to make a lot of money, I would do a T-shirt that says "Configuration is a bitch," because it's just putting the pieces of a puzzle together, Bob.
Right.
With an iPhone is like climbing up Mount Everest. I mean, here's a company who charges you $1,000. You buy something, and then it tests the product after you bought them. And to get customer service for them is like really nails on a chalkboard. It's such a painful project to get customer service. People, Bob, are so used to reading a script, they don't understand what the real deal is. And customer service, I think, is acting and communicating with people as if you're talking to your loved one, your parents, or your children. Do things for people like they're a family member, and all of a sudden your customer service capabilities will really go through the roof.
Absolutely. Get Out of Your Own Way Guide to Life. Justin Loeber is my guest on the BS with Bob podcast. Justin, thanks for your time. How do we find the book, and how do we find you and follow you on Facebook and follow you on Twitter and stuff?
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. You can follow me. Well, the first thing is go onto my book website, which is called getoutofyourownwaybook.com. It's got all of the Twitter, Facebook. It's got my contact information. You can buy the book wherever books are sold. You can go on Amazon, BNN.com. There's all links to that on my book website, getoutofyourownwaybook.com. And my company is in New York is called Mouth Digital and Public Relations, and the website is mouthdigitalpr.com. And I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Bob.
My pleasure. I enjoyed our conversation. Get Out of Your Own Way Guide to Life. Justin Loeber, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I really wish all your readers that they make at least one dream come true in their lifetime. That's what it's all about, making dreams come true without apology.
Gonna be asked goodbye.
The BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com.
This has been another podcastforhire.com production.